Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for taking some time to view my presentation on understanding procrastination. My name is Betty Sims, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I currently serve as a retention specialist and coordinator for academic programs here at the AAC. Even though this is a recorded session, there will be a few reflective exercises, so I would like to invite you to have a pen and paper nearby. So first, I just want to share that I definitely identify as someone who does have a tendency to procrastinate. And in the process of putting together this presentation, I was able to find a lot of really great resources. So there's a lot of really great information out there for folks. Um, so today I'll be focusing on three main aspects of procrastination. First, we'll define it. Second, we will seek to understand it. And lastly, we will touch on how to manage it. I will say that I do have another presentation on this YouTube channel that's specifically looking at how to manage procrastination, that dives more into it and gives more practical tips. So if that's what you're looking for, after you view this presentation, please feel free to click over to that presentation as well. So let's jump into it. What is procrastination? How do we define it? First, I really want to normalize the experience of procrastination. It's an extremely common experience that virtually every student will encounter at one time or another. Although the degree to which we experience procrastination and the ways that it impacts us will vary person to person. So, at a basic level, procrastination can be defined as the action of delaying or postponing something. And I think this definition really resonates with a lot of folks. But does it fully capture the experience of procrastination? I think that there is an emotional component that isn't explicitly represented with this definition. Therefore, another definition that we can also consider is the following. Procrastination is the voluntary, irrational delay in action despite the expectation of a potential negative outcome. I don't know about you, but this does more closely match my own experiences with procrastination. It does kind of touch on the emotional experience that we have when we are procrastinating. Okay, so now that we have a couple of working definitions of procrastination, we can start working towards understanding procrastination, how it impacts us, and what it does for us. Okay, so to begin this next section, we are going to do an activity that's really focused on understanding procrastination on an individual level. So pull out a pen and paper, and for the next few minutes, we are going to reflect on a couple of questions. So first, think about your last week. In those last 7 days or so, when have you procrastinated? What were the tasks and what was the outcome? Maybe it was, hey, I waited until the night before to start a paper. Um, the task was that essay that I had put off, and the outcome was that I had to stay up for 24 hours straight, really writing that essay. Next, please write down how you feel when you know you're procrastinating. So, one way that procrastination really manifests for me is in putting off important tasks by watching Netflix. So, when I know that I'm procrastinating, some things that can come up for me are feelings of like guilt. I know I should be doing something else. Also, definitely some feelings of relief, right? Like, I don't think Netflix has ever had anything more interesting than when I'm supposed to be working on something else. Um, so really take some time to reflect on both the positive and negative aspects of how you feel when you are procrastinating. Next, I think it's really important to think about how procrastination might be impacted by our identities or our experiences. So, for example, if we identify as a first generation student, we might be also experiencing other things on campus that might make it difficult for us to fully be present and participate. Maybe it's navigating additional questions about financial aid. Maybe it's feelings of imposter syndrome that are also coming up, things like that. So please take some time to reflect on these questions. Again, pause the video if you need, and try to be as specific as possible. This is really foundational for really moving through how you manage procrastination. So, really, one of the main takeaways I would like for folks to take from this is to know that procrastination is not just something that we do because we're lazy. It's not something that we do because we don't have an idea of how to manage our time. Time management is the idea of thinking about how we dedicate time to specific tasks. So, one method of managing our time is to think about all the tasks that we have to do that week. Procrastination is knowing that, but maybe thinking about, like, hey, I'm going to go watch Netflix instead. So they're two different things. Um, Procrastination is also not a personal failing or a personality trait. It is an emotional experience, and as such, it is very complicated. So it's important to think about this with empathy and understanding for ourselves, and also recognize that sometimes it doesn't help us get where we want to be. So, with all of this said, what do we do with our tendency to procrastinate? So now that we have a working definition of procrastination and hopefully a little bit of a better understanding of what procrastination means to us, we're going to move into the last section, which is what to do. How do we manage this procrastination? So I also want to share here that I chose the word managing very specifically because it's important that we work with our emotions. Procrastination might not ever be something that completely goes away, and it's okay to understand and really validate what comes up for us when we procrastinate. So, the first thing to do is to really acknowledge and recognize our feelings of procrastination. So, for the next 7 days, when you start to feel this idea of, I know what I need to do, I have these tasks that I need to do, but I don't want to do them, take a minute and reflect on what's coming up for me. Is it that these tasks are really tedious? I just don't think that it's really going to be helpful. Maybe you feel really frustrated with these tasks. All of those things are okay. Take a step and just catalog what you're feeling in those moments when you are procrastinating. The next thing to do is really reflect on what triggers procrastination for you. Do you notice that you procrastinate for specific tasks more than others? Is it specific courses more than others? For me, I generally tend to procrastinate things that I don't like doing. So, for example, this would be laundry. I know that I need to do it. For me, it helps me to feel more prepared for the week, but I find it really tedious. So that's an example of something that I do procrastinate. Next is to recognize things that are helpful for us. So, one example is to make a little bit of progress each day on some things that you typically tend to procrastinate. And when we do that, we do get a sense of reward, like, this was really difficult, but I did it. So that really helps us to feel encouraged to continue this process of working on the things that we need to work on. Lastly, in conjunction with this idea of procrastination being a very emotional experience, it's definitely something that is different for everyone. So there is no one size fits all solution to procrastinating or to effectively managing our tendencies to procrastinate. So please try to investigate and try specific techniques. So it's important here to be specific. So try one technique per week, and if it does not work, don't keep trying to do it. It's probably not going to be helpful for you. There are tons and tons of techniques out there that you can use. I have another video on this YouTube channel that does dive into some of these very specific procrastination techniques. So please feel free to check out that video if you're still wondering what I can do specifically. Okay, folks, thank you all so much for taking some time to view this video. We are going to do one final closing activity together. So for the next 3 minutes or so, again, feel free to pause this video if you'd like. Write down one thing you learned that surprised you about procrastination. Maybe it was the definition, maybe it was the idea that it's such a common experience. Just take a second, reflect on what you learned, and write that down. Next, once you have that completed, write down one strategy you'd like to try to help manage procrastination. Maybe it's something that you've already tried that you'd like to try again, or maybe you're not sure. And in that case, I'd like to really encourage you to watch my other video on this channel, which is called Managing Procrastination. Once again, thank you all so much for your time today. Here is a works cited page if you're interested in learning more about some of the specific things that I found helpful. Again, there's a lot of research out there, so I encourage you to continue to learn more about procrastination. Thanks so much. Have a great day.